Why I enjoy it. The primary thing is because I know the life that God puts in His Word. Amen. And when the Word comes out from me, I know what's coming out of you. Remember when the woman touched Yeshua, and he said, "Who touched me?" And they said, "Oh, everybody's touching you." He said, No. Virtue went out of me. When she touched, she connected in faith. And when she connected in faith, he's walking in this crowd, everybody's jostling, but whoa, he felt the life of Yahweh leave his body and go in that direction. He felt it. And he told, whoa, who touched me? Well, it's the same in preaching. When the Word of God goes forth, that people tap into it and receive it. Yeah. And there's a life in giving it out. My job is to give it out. My job is never to make you believe it. It's not to force you to believe it. That's entirely between you and the Lord, and you're always going to be accountable to Him, not to me. But I am accountable to say what He says, and as much as possible to say no more, no less. Don't add to His Word, or don't subtract from His Word. So to me, every week, and it's been this way since I began ministry, every week coming to look at the opportunity to declare and teach the Word of God has been an exciting journey for me. Lord, what now do you want to do? What new thing do you want to show me now? I have great expectation over all these years, still do, that I'm going to chart down a course, and in the midst of that course, the Holy Spirit's going to highlight something to me. Now, sometimes He drops something into me on Monday and develops it all week. Sometimes He drops something in, and it might be a month later that it comes into fruition. Sometimes he drops it in pretty quickly. I've had times when I show up in the pulpit and He takes me in a different direction. It's like, well, what was all that work for? What did I sit there for 3 hours, with a 6-page outline, and you want to do something else? Well, but that's the fun of the journey. And last night, Jordan will testify to this, and Donna as well. I have a nice message here. It is. It's in line of what we've been talking about, and we will come back to this. It's based on Proverbs 1 and the wisdom we need to know. Remember, we're in a series, Are There Any Rules for Life? Are there any rules for life? And if there are no rules, then every man to himself. But if there are rules, don't you think it would be wise to find out where those rules are and to follow them? Would that not just make common sense? The Bible says there's a way that seems right to man and a way that seems right to God. And the way that seems right to man leads to death. Do you have a right to do your own thing? Yeah. Have at it. You won't enjoy the results of it, but have at it. And when your life falls apart and when things don't come together, don't complain to me. In fact, wisdom says in Proverbs 1 that because you wouldn't listen to me when you call out to me at the time of calamity, I will laugh. Now, what the laughing is, I'm laughing at the fact that you thought you wouldn't reap what you sow. And Paul picks that up when he says that God will not be mocked. What you sow is what you're going to reap. When people reap things, sometimes they complain about it. Anyway, I got a great message on that. And I was going down, putting my outline together. You read my outlines, Hebrew words that we're going to learn. Not today, but we're going to learn it some other time. And then I'm talking about rules and everything. And all of a sudden, I said, okay, I want an illustration. Yeshua used illustrations out of the natural world all the time, took you from the known to the unknown. I can't take you into spiritual truth if you can't even understand the physical truth. How on earth are you going to understand things of the Spirit if you can't understand how things work in the natural? And he dropped something in me, and I literally jumped up off the desk, where the seat, and shouted. And Jordan said, "What?" I says, "You got to listen to this." And it was okay. It was really excited. So in the midst of this, I had a little paragraph, and I thought, whoa, I can't wait to get that. Holy Spirit said to me, you don't need to wait if you don't want to. Why don't you just preach that? Excuse me, this is one little illustration in my hour-and-a-half message. That's how long they tend to go sometimes. And but there's so much in it. So I have no idea where it's going to go because that's the paragraph. But I'm excited to dig at it with you. Okay, I've been digging at it, you better believe, in my mind, but I'm trying to hold off so that we can kind of explore together. And you know, it's interesting because all of this starts from something Pastor Shad said to me a couple of weeks ago when he came up afterwards and said, you know, the church is trying to play chess using the rules of checkers. Now, that was in the context that the church is trying to live a Christian life, but they're playing according to the world standard. We're trying to be Christ-like, but we're living like the world. We're playing with the rules of what gets you ahead in the world. You know, this is how you do it in the world. We grew up in the world. And we're trying to play the game of life with the world standard. It doesn't work. That's like trying to play chess with the rules of checkers. Now, I don't know how many of you play either of those. And you know, if I were high tech and we had a fancy computer, I'd have it over the desk here and zoom down, and you'd all look at the screen and go, "Ooh, wow, isn't that cool?" But I got a chessboard and a checker set. Let me just give you some rules. They're rules. You say, "Pastor, is this spiritual?" Oh, you just wait and see how spiritual this is going to be. Checkers is pretty simple. It's complicated in terms of strategy as you get more proficient at it. But in checkers, you're moving your little piece. We have dark pieces and light pieces, and you're moving them on the board one after another. And the object of checkers is to take all the other man's. The one that is left with at least one piece wins. And the way you capture pieces is you jump over them. So if I have one right next to another and there's a space on the other side, I jump over it and take the piece and smile. Now, if I were in a different situation and my board, I went and said, "Ha, I got you. I'm going to jump your piece." "Ha, I got you." And he says, "And I'm going to jump two of your pieces." Oh. So when you know the rules doesn't mean you can play the game.
That's right.
Yeah. Are you taking notes? Write that one down. Just because you know the rules doesn't mean you can win the game. You can't play the game if you don't know the rules. Most Christians aren't even playing the game. Come on, I don't want to go down that road, but most Christians aren't playing the game because they don't know the rules. Pastors won't teach them. There is a right and a wrong way to think, a right and a wrong way to do things, a right and a wrong. We're so politically correct, we don't want to tell people what's right and what's wrong. That's not the Bible. But just because you know the rules does not mean you can win the game. You got to pay attention. You got to think ahead. You've got to understand if he moves here, then I move there. But if I move there, look, what's he going to do? What's his? You're always got to be a move or two ahead. You know, I've got three possible moves. I got to think, what are the consequences of each of those three possible moves? Come on. You know, the Bible says that you should not be unequally yoked with an unbeliever. Now, can you do that? Sure you can. You know, well, if you don't know the rules and how to play it, you find yourself having fallen in love with somebody who's not a godly person, it's not of God, and now you can't get out of it because you didn't think ahead. How do I run my life so that never happens? You don't fall in love and then try to make the scriptures make it right. So how do you protect your heart? How do you engage in relationship? What are the things that move you? You got to identify that because that's the biggest thing the devil does to destroy Christian young people. It's Bible. You might not like it. But I tell you, if you think of the consequences of it, I look over my life, and there's just far too many believers who married unbelievers, and the believer loses. The believer doesn't win. So the goal is that I'm going to capture pieces, and my goal is that he's capturing some of mine, and she's got some of mine, but I'm getting some of hers, and we're jumping away, and it comes to the last place, and they got in a terrible position, and I go, boom, boom, I got your last two pieces, I've got some left, I win. You understand that? Some of you might want to have lessons with the children on playing checkers afterwards. Now, chess is far more complicated. Chess is far more complicated. You got two sides of the board, and you have a war. And the first thing you got to learn in chess is how the pieces move. This is a pawn. And the pawn, in his first move, or her first move, do we call it a him or her? I don't know. But in the first move of a pawn, you can go 2 spaces. Thereafter, you never can. You don't have to go 2, but you can. Thereafter, you can go 1 space at a time. And the pawn has a very interesting process, and that is this. As the pawn moves, it doesn't capture a piece by jumping. It doesn't capture a piece by coming straight. The pawn has to come at an angle, so this pawn cannot capture this one. But if this pawn is here, he can slide, and now I got that piece. So that's the pawn. These are kind of frontline defense up here. We have a thing called a castle or a rook. I like to call them castle, but. And the castle can move this way, or the castle can move this way. As many spaces as are open. So if this pawn isn't here, this castle can move all the way up to there. Okay? Those are its moves, this way and that way. The bishop, there's 2 bishops on the board, there's 2 castles. The bishop moves diagonally. So you have 1 bishop for each color. This bishop on this board is on the black, which means it's always going to be on the black, and it can move this way, that way. It can move at the diagonal anytime. That's how the bishop moves, as long as the space is open. Then we got this crazy guy called the knight. The knight was the most difficult one that I had to kind of visualize how it moves. People call it an L. I don't. Here's what I call it. It moves 1 space forward, backwards, or to the side, and then 1 space diagonally. So it can jump over a piece. So my pawn doesn't need that piece to be open. My pawn wants to go over here. It goes 1 forward and lands over here. So the knight. So the knight goes 1 here. It's like learning to dance. Back when I took dancing lessons, except instead of doing square, it goes 1 here and then at the diagonal. So the knight's pretty handy, because when people are first learning chess, they can't visualize the threat of a knight because it looks like he's over here. What's he going to do? And he does this weird maneuver and suddenly captures your piece, and it's like, how did that happen? The king. Very interesting. We'll get back to what his role is in a minute, but king can move 1 space in any direction. He can forward, backward, 1 space. That's all he can do is 1 space. The queen. You can't convince me that there wasn't a woman's liberation person behind chess. It's got to be. The queen is the most powerful piece on the entire chessboard.
Yeah. Go girls.
See, so, some of you ladies, oh, really? Now you're suddenly interested in chess. The queen can move as many spaces as she wants to in any direction. So this queen is, you wonder why Pastor Donna's office is the bigger office in the building? I call it the Queen's office. Okay? She can move anywhere she wants. You know what's her role in the ministry? Anything she wants it to be. My role is this. Her role is anything she wants it to be. Okay? That's the Queen. Now, in checkers, as I said, that the goal is I got to capture all the other pieces. So the goal of checkers is I'm now in a playing field where the enemy is not around anymore. My goal was to take over the entire field. Some people are trying to play the Christian life as if that's their goal, and I've got news for you. Until Yeshua returns, it isn't going to happen. The only time you're going to have completely taken over the field is when you're out of here. By the way, that's why death is no sad thing for a Christian. I'm out of here. I'm off the battlefield altogether. One thing I know, when I wake up on the other side, he's not there. Amen? He's not there. Come on. I don't have to fight sickness in heaven. I don't have to fight discouragement in heaven. I don't have to fight any of the works of the enemy because he's not there. And many people are trying to play life, which is a chess game, as if it's a checkers game, and they keep on trying to get him off the field, but he keeps showing back on the field. Because this isn't life. Come on. In any way you want to put at it in life, that's checkers is not life. ISIS was going to take over the world. And many people believe they were, and they were brutal and did a terrible thing, but where are they? Hitler was going to have a 1,000-year Reich, 1,000 years of Germanic rule. You know, it didn't even last 20 years. Come on, where for a moment it looked like they're going to, it's never happened. No one has ever taken over the world. Isn't going to happen. Isn't going to happen. Even after the rapture, God will still have his people here. There will be people by the thousands the day after the rapture who will get born again. Amen. Simply witnessing what happened, they'll say, oh, that's what my relatives were telling me, and they're going to commit their life to the Lord and go through the tribulation fighting for Yahweh. Come on. Satan will never dominate and own the world. Life is not checkers. Life is chess. Okay? Now, so what's the goal of chess? In the process of fighting the battle, I may have successfully taken most of my opponents, captured them, and they're off the board. But the goal isn't to get the pieces. The goal is this king. And the goal is to put the king in a position where he cannot move. It's called checkmate. When I come and put move my bishop into a position where it can slide diagonally and potentially take the king. It doesn't take the king. You never take the king. It doesn't take the king. What I say is check. And what that means is you got to move your king. You can never leave the king where he can be taken. And I say check, which means whatever else you wanted to do now stops, and you must move your king. Or put a blocking piece in front of the king. Something to block that shot that he has. And so I say, check, and you move it. And then I move my piece, and I say, check, what am I doing? I got you in trouble now. And you're escaping by the skin of your teeth. But when I put you in a position where you have no move, I say, checkmate. The game is over. Now the king is still on the board. But the game is over because catch this phrase, I've paralyzed the king. I had a curious question. You watch chess games that go on for hours and hours and hours, and there's some young chess prodigy, about 9 years old, I think it was, or something like that, who was playing 10 masters at the same time. I mean, phenomenal brains. But I raised a simple question, which is, how few moves can you make and capture the king? The answer is actually 2. And they have 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2, 4, and 5 are pretty well known. 3 wasn't, and I looked at it. So let me see if I remember this. I take the pawn in front of my king, and I move it out 2 spaces. And novice over here, who thinks she knows everything about playing life, because after all, I've been here for 16 years. Moves her pawn 2 spaces. That's one move for me. What's my second move? My second move is I slide over and take her pawn. Her second move is did I do this? Well, I moved the wrong one. Oh, I moved it the wrong one because he set it up wrong. Andrew. The queen goes on the on its own color. They're not supposed to be opposite that way. Let me think of this again. I know I started playing both sides at once. Give me a moment. I'll do this. I'm not a chess player. I'm trying to demonstrate, and I will do it. Okay, so I take the king. And I always do it that way. 2. Yes, okay. There. She goes out this 2. I take that. Cool. My next move is I take my all-powerful queen and I slide her right to here. She has a clear shot at the king, and the king has no place to move, and nothing he can put in there to block it. Oh, her next move was that. She can't move that one. I've got a shot. 3 moves. Now, if you're a chess player, you learn never do that. If you don't learn never to do that, you don't understand why it takes you longer to set up the board than it does to lose. I set up the chessboard. It took me 5 minutes. I lost in 30 seconds. Boom, 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 boom. How's that happen? And there's people in life
Glory to God.
who keep repeating the same mistake over and over and over again. How many business ventures do you need to lose before you realize you're doing something wrong? How many marriages do you have to have before you realize you don't have a secret right? How many days of being discouraged do you have to have before you figured out, I don't like discouragement, I need to find a way out? How much of your life has to go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down before you realize, according to the Bible, we're supposed to be on an ascending journey. And up, down means I'm doing something wrong. People will fight that they're doing something wrong, and what happens is they lose the game quicker and quicker and with more anger till finally they come along and say, I'm not going to play life anymore. Come on, I'm trying to tell you how serious this is. I'm talking about life and death. I'm not talking just about people do that and commit suicide. I'm talking about people, after 10 years of marriage, their marriage dies and they live a dead marriage for the next 30, 40 years. They've given up all their dreams, all their hopes. They now tolerate each other, have a nice little, isn't this? But inside, that woman and that man are dying. I've met them in the elderly retirement homes. I've met them, nice people, but their marriage died when they were 28, 32 years old. And all their life, they go on, they have the same address, they do things, and they're trying to vicariously live through their children, but something died, but they're still living. I'm talking about pastors who get up in their pulpit and preach week after week after week after week, but something died. They gave up on life and said, no more, but they still get up and they're doing it, and there's a deadness in their life, there's an emptiness in their life, and finally they just say, I've had it. How did you get to the point where you had it? Because you weren't playing the game right. And rather than to going to a chess master who knows how to play the game and saying, can you teach me how to play the game? You resisted counsel, you resisted input, and that's what the book of Proverbs chapter 1 is all about. Because you resisted my counsel, says wisdom, I will laugh at your calamity. When it comes, you're going to turn to me for help, but you've developed a habit of not receiving help. And because that's how you've developed your life, you are going to fail. That's not a negative confession of the Bible, but you're refusing to do the thing that requires to change it. I think I sufficiently have your attention, probably when I wiped all the pieces off the board. I heard told of a preacher that we all love and everything like that, but he just didn't like to play games where he loses, and so he would play checkers with people, but when it became apparent that he was going to lose, he'd do that with a checker piece. Oh, well, I'm done. I did that in a different way. I used to play chess with Scott and Randy till they got better than me, then I stopped. And it wasn't that I couldn't compete. It's that the effort to compete, I was unwilling to pay. You know, I want to have a quick solution. Okay, you moved here, I'll move here. But they were thinkers. They learned to think. Dad did that. I mean, they're a child. They got all their life to think about it. My life is in a hurry. I don't know what for, but it's like, you know, I don't want to play a game that's going to take 5 hours. You know, and so I'll move here, And it got to the point where consistently they could beat me. And I remember Scott one time said, Dad, just think. What's going to happen if you do that? Well, you know, we'll do it and see. And did that. And nothing happened until 4 moves later. What I had done there set him up 4 moves later to win the game. You know, and what I realized was I can play this game, but it's going to require effort that I'm unwilling to pay.
Hallelujah.
So the result is I don't play it. Now that's okay with a game. I remember I loved to play table tennis as a teenager, and I was pretty good at it in our teenage club on the Army base. You know, I usually won up near the top. And so I thought I was pretty good. Well, I was pretty good with that crowd. And one day there was a soldier who had come over for some things, and he's watching me play. He says, you want to play with me? I said, yes. I couldn't even see where the ball went, you know. Boom, you know, it's like, what is going on here? I played a number of games with it, and my goal was to get 5 points. You know, there's 21 points. I quickly reassessed my goal. My goal isn't to beat him. My goal is, can I get even 5 points off this guy? Because the first time I got 1. You know, I mean, you just stood there watching the ball. I mean, you couldn't even react that quick. And he told me something. He says, you know, you have the capability of being a good ping pong player, and I can teach you. Mm-hmm. But first of all, you're holding the paddle wrong. Secondly, you're doing this wrong. Thirdly, you're doing this. I need to teach you all over as if you've never learned. And I can do that for you, but here's what's going to happen. In order to do it, you're going to have to be consistent. If you do it my way sometimes and your way, it'll never work. You're going to have to totally do it my way. And doing it my way means that probably for the first year, you'll never win a game. You're never going to win a game among your friends. You can beat them all now with your skill. But learning, you know, because you're going to have to hit hard and quick and hold the paddle this way. And while you're learning that, man, the ball is going to keep missing the table. He says it may take you a year before you can finally win a game against people you can beat all the time now. But I know you can do it because I know you've got the capability of doing it. And this young, brash 13-year-old decided I'd rather beat my peers than learn how to be a champion. Now, I don't sit and moan about that, by the way. I don't have a goal in life of being a champion ping pong player. And I found another problem with being a champion ping pong player is you're pretty much alone. Where can you go and just have fun with ping pong? Because you can't find anyone who challenges you. It's hard to fly like an eagle when you're living with turkeys. I'll let that one set. Come on. Who you hang around with. But I say it this way, is that I could have if I had put in the effort. You can win at life. But to win at life, you may have to go through a period where you're not capable of making any decision.
That's right. That's right.
I learned when my business mentor, Jim, was teaching me about the power of my words. He'd sit there while I'm teaching sometimes, and he'd go, and I'd say, I never, and he'd go, I never used to be able to, but with the help of Yeshua, I am increasingly, and he'd go like this, I mean, he'd just sit there. It's like I didn't realize how much negativity there was in my vocabulary. But he could hear it, and I had people say, weren't you offended? How dare he do that? I wanted to get it right. I found out I'd be in places where I just couldn't say anything because I didn't know how to say it. I just know I am not going to allow this mouth to speak a negative word. Somebody had asked a question. I said, yeah. I was talking with a friend of mine out in Oklahoma one day, and we were going through some challenges at the time in the ministry that I was with, and he says to me, how are things going? I said, they're going great. And which they are in the spiritual realm. And he starts asking some questions. I said, well, yeah. And finally, he could realize I'm not answering his questions. And he's on the other end of the phone out there, and he says, are you standing in faith for something? I said, I most certainly am. He says, great, well, then I'll stop interfering with it. You're fighting the fight for healing in your body, and your mother, your brother, your sister, your friend, your Christian neighbor, somebody calls up and says, honey, how are you doing? I know you got that faith stuff, but how are you really doing? What are they trying to do? They're trying to get you to use your mouth to start confessing what the Bible says is wrong to confess. The Bible says, let the weak say I'm strong, therefore let the sick say I'm healed. Bible says in 1 Peter 2:24, by his stripes you were healed. Well, if you were healed, you are healed. The Bible says in Jeremiah that Yahweh brings health and healing to you. It says he sent forth his word and it heals you. It says that the word of God in Thessalonians is actively and effectively at work in you. Wait a minute, he sent the word, he's watching over the word. He sent a word that says that I'm healed. He brings the healing to me. And now he tells me that word is working effectually in my body. How dare I say with my mouth, well, things aren't going, I'm struggling, I got this, I got that, I got that. I have just lined my words up with the words of the enemy. I'm not saying those aren't facts, but they're not truth.
Amen.
It might be a fact that my body hurts, but the truth is I'm healed. What does that have to do with it? Okay? And so to learn that, people get all bent, well, I just can't say anything. Yeah, that might be. David said, oh Lord, put a watch over my mouth. Put a watch over my mouth. David said, clamp my mouth. And yet the most difficult thing that Donna and I have had to teach in ministry over and over and over and over again is the simple truth that the words of your mouth are what is guiding your destiny.
Amen.
It's a truth. It won't change. Whether you agree with it or not doesn't make any difference. It is. And the truth is your own mouth is the primary way in which the devil is succeeding in having entrance, having captivity in your life. He's captured you by your mouth. You're hung by your own tongue. But how long does it take people to get that? I don't know. When I got it, I got to the point where I couldn't talk sometimes. I'd just sit there quiet because I didn't know how to say right things. So I said no thing. But you can learn it. I learned it. By the way, you have to keep rehearsing over it because the devil keeps pulling that string all the time. Okay? The goal of chess is very simple. It is to put that enemy king in a place where he can't move. I want to bind him in. Let me get me some white pieces. They won't make any sense, but that's okay. They don't have to make sense. I get him in a place where he can't move. I've got him all boxed in. He doesn't know what to do. And I say, checkmate. He's stuck there. He's there, but he can't move. I'm not going to remove Satan from my life. You're not going to get Satan out of your life. I mean, out of you live in his world. We don't wrestle with flesh and blood, is what Paul said in Ephesians 6, but with what? Principalities and powers and rulers of this dark age, wicked forces of evil in the heavenly realms. These are real. These things are real. Amen. And they will destroy you in one moment, one split second if they can. And in today's world, what will we do? We'll get a bunch of grief counselors around to comfort you and tell you how bad life was, when the truth was, you could have made a difference. You could have driven differently. You could have not done the drugs. You could have not done this. You could have made different choices. You could have listened to Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit told people to run on 9/11, and they literally ran, not knowing why they were running, and they were saved. Other people probably heard that and said, I don't know what that's about. See, because if God didn't speak that to everyone to warn them, then he's a respecter of persons. The Bible says he's not a respecter of persons. People who had testimonies, they just felt impressed by God not to go to work. Something came up. And the interesting thing to me is those stories came out of people who weren't Christians, which means that Yahweh is faithful. The Creator spoke. The devil is about to do something terrible, and he spoke a word. Stay away. Don't get there. If everybody had listened, the building would have gone. There would have been nobody there. A man I worked for, when that first plane went off, we found out what went on. She came in. She was white as a ghost. Her manager was supposed to be on that plane. She took it upon herself. It's a flight he always took to New York. She took it upon herself because she realized he'd had a very stressful week. And she realized she could get him on a plane 2 hours later. He'd still be there in time for the meeting. It would give him two more hours at home. And she called him that night and said, I've moved your flight to 2 hours out. You need the rest. The secretary said, you need the rest. She saved his life. That wasn't just her being compassionate. That was Holy Spirit moving in her life. Used her compassion to get her motivated to do something to save that man's life. You're not going to get the devil out of existence. That's Yahweh's job. That's Yeshua's job. But he's been defeated, and we need to enforce the ruling of his defeat. I wrote it down somewhere that outlaws do not obey the law.
That's right.
Therefore, the law must be enforced. Let me say that again. Outlaws do not obey the law. That's why they're outside the law. Therefore, you must enforce the law. I've used this illustration many times of the Wild West. I grew up watching Wild West movies, and typical scene was here comes the bad gang riding into town on their ponies, shooting up and everything, and they're robbing the bank. And as they come into town, they shoot at the barber. He ducks and he hides. Oh no, the outlaws have come. They're big bad guys, and all the citizens are running and hiding in fear. We're just farmers. We're just these innocent little people. And here comes the outlaws. That's not the truth of what went on. Everybody in town that had money in that bank, they're not going to let an outlaw do it. The barber wasn't ducking down to hide. He was ducking down to get his rifle and to run out into the street and start shooting at him. The little farmer in the feed store ran out and pulled his rifle out of the saddlebag, and they all started shooting. The average life of an outlaw in those days was less than 10 years. It had a very short career. Imagine what would happen if whenever the devil comes around, man, he gets trounced on. Demons are going back. Stay away from that church. Just stay away from that church. You know, you're going to get beat up. You know, you keep on throwing tests at them, but they keep coming out with a testimony of what God has done. You tried to destroy them. You took their building. You did this, and this. And they keep coming up like a little weeble. They wobble, but they don't fall down. Like a cork, they keep bopping to the top. Come on. The battle we're in is not a battle that we're going to take over. Christians are out there praying, we're going to take over Fitchburg, we're going to take over, Massachusetts, we're going to get up into the heavenlies, and we're going to pray and take authority. You got to be kidding me. Because those same Christians are living their day-to-day life, and they can't have authority in their own house. Now, see, we got to quit playing religion. This stuff either works or it doesn't work. We have a real enemy, and we've got to learn that he is devious. That's what the Bible says. He's a deceiver. He's a liar. He puts things in front of you that look one way, they're the other way. He is the author of fake news about you.
That's right.
To you, he speaks to your mind. This is a battle. He is constantly alert. What they did, they went to church, I'm going to do this. Have you noticed how many things come up to interfere with something you want to do for God? Amazing. Have you ever stopped and thought about how many times do you come to church and you get a message that turns you on, and Monday Aunt Susie calls you and dumps on you, and Tuesday somebody else, and Thursday your boss is mad at you. And these are not... It's not like life is an accident. There is a guy up there, and he is plotting and moving, and Spirit does this, and he does this, and Holy Spirit does this. Pastor Donna gets in your face and wakes you up, and you go, yeah. He gets in your face and tells you you're nothing, and come on. It's an active game, and unfortunately, it's winning in most of your lives. But that's because we've been fighting the wrong battle. We've been playing checkers. I got one of yours. Oh, well, you got two of mine. Well, that's okay. I got another one of yours. I got a testimony here. Oh, I got a testimony here. Rather than say, I'm not interested in a bunch of testimonies. I'm interested in finding out how to get this guy paralyzed. How to get him inoperative. You come at me with sword and shield, I come at you in the name of Yahweh. You come at me with sickness and disease, I come at you in the name of Yahweh, and I call you defeated. Come on. See, this stuff is... Children sit around... You know why children are not turned on by the Lord? Because they don't see their parents turned on by the Lord. They don't see it working in the home. They don't see mom and dad and grandpa and grandma. They don't see them walking in the power of God, talking about the power of God. Bible says that we're to walk and talk these things, put them in front of our children constantly. It's supposed to be part of our normal conversation. And far too much in America, young people go to church and they hear church talk and they hear what their parents say to other Christians in church, but then they go in the home and there's defeat and discouragement and being talked about all the time. Devil doesn't mind you going to church. I'm just going to put this in front of you. Devil doesn't mind you going to a concert and getting stirred up. Well, they're excited, but wait till they hear what I'm going to do. Come on. And our goal is simply to get this sucker in a place where he can't move. I'm not distracted by a pawn. I'm not going to be distracted by your night. I'm not after your night. I'm after you. I'm after the source of it. I'm after the ability to say, like Yeshua said, I saw Satan fall from heaven. Come on. I'm after the truth that he's not a powerful guy. He's not powerful. Bible intimates it when we get to heaven. What we're going to say is when we see him is, this is the one? This is the one that created all this problem on planet Earth? But more personally, you're going to say, that is the one that gave me all the trouble in my life. We've been sold a bill of goods in the church. Satan's powerful. Satan is an awesome, terrible enemy. You better watch out because at any moment he's going to get you. I like what Martin Luther did when he was in one of the castles in Germany, probably Wittenberg Castle. In the middle of the night, he's woken up, his bed is shaking, the room is shaking. He wakes up and there's a figure at the end of his bed, very ominous. And as he wakes up and looks, he realizes it's the devil. And he says, "Oh, it's only you." And he goes back to sleep. I thought it was something serious. It's only you. And he goes back to sleep. Come on, it's only you. It's only you. Satan has us fighting the wrong battles with the wrong rules. Chess is going to require some effort. And winning life is going to require some effort. You've got to become more than a student of the Bible. You've got to become knowledgeable. How do I apply it? How do I apply it? And what do I learn when I miss it? I don't go and cry. I go back and re-examine it and say, how could I have done it better? Young man went into his boss and said they had been making some bids on things and everything. And long story short, he comes up and says to his boss, I made a miscalculation. And he says, I cost the company something like $500,000. His boss just stares at him. And the young man says, I guess that means I'm fired. The boss said, fired? I just invested $500,000 in your education. I expect you to go out and do better and never do that again. Why bring someone else on who doesn't have that lesson? Huh? Come on. Boom, you trip, you fall, you get up, you dust yourself off. Satan, what on earth did you do? I see what you did. I will never again let that trip me up. You get a phone call, sit you in a tizzy, and you're all worked up and blah, 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 you know, and then you stumble. Wait, whoa, what's happened to me? I'm all stirred up, and now I got stress, and now other things are going on. How did all this begin? You start tracing it back, and guess what? You find out, 3 days ago you had this angry encounter. You say, I see what you did. I dust myself off. You never will get by that again. You'll never be able to run that one by me ever again. Come on. I had an experience early in my ministry where I just found myself at the end of a week, I was just kind of in a negative space. And we had some teenage girls living with us at the time, and one of them said to me, you know, Pastor, why are you so grumpy? I said, I'm not grumpy. She says, yeah, why are you grumpy? I said, I'm not grumpy. You know, by the third time, I'm not grumpy, I realized I was grumpy, you know. And so, well, how did I get in that space? You see, God used her to wake me up. Why get mad at her? And I sat down and said, how did I get in that space? Now, here's where I've taught you for years and years and years, and most of you aren't putting the work in to do it. You've got to be able to be honest with yourself. You're going to be able to be honest with yourself. Otherwise, you're just going undeceived. I said, okay, how did I get that way? It was a Friday. I said, so how was I Thursday? Grumpy. Well, how was I Sunday? Oh, Sunday I was really good. I get a sense I was really good. Okay. Well, then let's back again. Wednesday. How was I Wednesday? I was grumpy on Wednesday. Well, how was I on Monday? Monday everything was fine. Wait a minute. Everything's fine Sunday and Monday. Everything's grumpy Thursday and Wednesday. That leaves Tuesday. So here's my question. What happened on Tuesday? Oh, well, nothing happened. Excuse me. It's like people go out high, and I see them 3 days. They were so positive about the message that God had to say, and now they're so negative. And what am I going to ask you? Who did you talk to? I didn't talk to anybody. Who did you talk to? Somebody spoke words that stole what God spoke. That's how you lost the vision. That's how you lost it. Somebody spoke something. And now the devil used that and churned it in you, and you lost your hope in what you sat in church and got. I realized that I had, on that Tuesday, I'm going over my schedule, got my day timer out, and I realized I had visited an acquaintance of mine, a young woman, who was in a mental institution. I didn't know I was actually there to visit somebody else. I didn't know that she was in there. Name was Shirley. I had no idea Shirley was in there. Hadn't seen her for many years. I go walking in this mental institution to visit somebody, and I come around a corner, there was Shirley. And she was so drugged up, she was like a zombie. I said, Shirley, what are you doing here? I need to be here for a while. You know, and what I realized in that second, something happened to me. Something happened to me. No big thing. I didn't, go into, I ran into a situation that was overwhelming to me. So what did I do? I shut down. Went on about my business. I had things to do that day, appointments to do. But inside me, the devil had shut down something in me. And what he shut down was compassion. Because if you don't care, you won't hurt. Come on. This was someone I cared for, and that was just fine. Then I won't care for anybody. Now, that was not a logical thought. It's just instantly I got into protect my feelings because I'm overwhelmed by this tragedy that has happened right in front of me. So I just shut down and I became matter of fact with people, and then I ended up becoming grumpy. I turned and said to the devil later when I began to see how this works, I will never let you shut my compassion off because it hurts. I've had plenty of opportunity. Man, he pushes on that one. I was interviewed for a church position years ago that I really wanted. I had a lot of things in my former denomination. It would have been a good move, good people and everything like that. And after this long interview process, I get a phone call one night. It's the chairman of the interviewing board. He says, Don, how are you? I said, good. He says, listen, we're in the final stages of interview. I said, yeah, I knew you were getting close to it. He said, well, we got down to two individuals, you and this other man, and he said something to the effect of, the procedure is that we're supposed to send out letters, so I'm supposed to send you a letter, he says, but we've come to know you and appreciate, and we really love you, and that just seems impersonal to me. So I wanted to be able to tell you personally that the board voted to call the other man as a pastor, not you. And the primary reason was he's got more experience than you. He's in his early 40s. You're still in your early 30s, and it's an older congregation, and they kind of thought that maybe the more experienced man. You know what I said? Great, I understand. I understand. That's what life is about. Thank you for calling me. Blah, hung up the phone and walked away, and bam, I had shut off. And I said to God, I made a mistake, God. I gave those people my heart before I found out whether they wanted me. From now on, I will never give my heart to a congregation until I know they want me to be their pastor. And Holy Spirit said, then you won't be like me. He says, I gave my life to the world, and they rejected me. Another lesson. Okay, devil, I'm learning this. Don't shut off compassion. I have times now where he'll still run that by. That's it. I don't care. Say, wait a minute. I don't care. Where does that come from? Devil, get back in your box. How'd you get out of there? I must have moved a piece out of the way, and now I'm going to get my pieces back in place, and you're bound. I am not going there. I will not shut off my compassion because it hurts. Is this making sense to you? Are you getting anything out of this? See, the rule of the game is to keep him paralyzed, to keep him so he can't move. And his rule is whatever he can do to create disruptions over here, get you to move your pieces out of the way so he can start moving again. And it's going to be a constant battle like that right up until the day you check out. John on the island of Patmos was in exile for his faith, but at one point as an elderly man, all he had to do was offer incense to to the emperor as God, and he would be set free. And one of the city elders came to him and said, John, you don't have to believe it, just do it. They cared for him. They offered John, look, we can get you out of this jail cell. All you have to do is don't even say the word, just put some incense on the altar. People will think you're offering that. You don't need to believe it. You don't need to say it. Just do it. And he says, how can I deny my Lord I've served all these years? And he refused to do it. Right up to the end of your life, the devil's going to be putting pressure on you. People fight the fight of faith, and in the last moments of the fight of faith, all of a sudden, I don't know why. Yeah, there's a lot of things you don't know why. But I do know one thing. I know in whom I have believed, and I know that he's able to keep that which I've committed to him against this day. I've seen many things that appear as loss turn out to be gain. Amen. For a simple rule. And that is Yahweh gets the last move. Let me close with this. There's a story told, and I've read it, Googled it, and I find it's told about many people. I don't know if it was Thomas Jefferson, if it was somebody. This story is assigned to have happened with a lot of faith, but it's the same story, so I don't know where it was really. But in a house, there was a man sitting there, and he had a painting over the dining room area. He had a guest with him, and they were talking, and the guest looks up, and the painting is of a chess game going on. And there's a man sitting there at the chessboard with his head in his hands like this. And standing over him is a very satanic figure, obviously the devil. And there's one word on the painting as the devil's pointing to the board, and the man's like this. The devil is saying, checkmate. This is your life. This is where it arrives at. The guy's looking at that painting. What a pessimistic view of life, but that's most people's life, by the way. At the end, the devil says, checkmate. Some people see death as that. Death isn't checkmate. You've got to be kidding me. You don't have a thing. You can never win because out of here. But this man who was sitting there at the dinner was an expert chess player. And all through the evening, he's staring at this chessboard with, I don't know how many pieces, 6, 8 pieces on it, and he's staring and staring, and suddenly he bangs on the table. He says, the king has one more move. Everybody, what is he talking about? He's pointing at the picture. The king has one more move. And he goes up and he shows where the king has the ability to move. He isn't checkmated. And when the devil comes to you and says, checkmate, you got to have the confidence and faith that says, oh, no. My king gets the last move. Amen. My king gets the last move. You can do all the things you can have. What's that? He's king of kings. For some people, you know what that last move is? Who was the young man, Stephen, that they stoned? They gathered around, man, they're stoning him to death. What's the last move? He's there and he looks up and heaven opens up. And Yeshua is standing. What does the Bible say his position is? Seated. He's seated in the heavenlies. And there's the devil. He knows he's seated up there. And there's Yeshua seated on his throne. And he's seated there. And all of a sudden, the devil's got the crowd to a frenzy. They're going to kill Stephen. And Yeshua stands up and walks to the balcony of heaven and splits heaven wide open. And Stephen there looks up and sees him, and all he had to say was, come home. They stoned a dead body. He had already left the body. I see heaven opened. Well, he's out, and then the next, and they stoned him to death. Well, they're stoning a dead body. Yeshua said, come home. See, even if it has to be that, it's the 3 men in the fiery furnace. You better bow because there's no God who can deliver you from this fiery furnace. No God can do that. Listen, okay. Our God is quite able to deliver us from the fiery furnace. But even if He doesn't, He's able. But even if He doesn't, we're not going to bow down to you. Why would we bow down to you? And the king is enraged. The last move. Who's got the last move? Satan always thinks he's got the last move. And there's a king, and in the rage of Satan, throw him in the fiery furnace. Why? Because that's the last move. In fact, it's so hot that the furnace consumes the soldiers that throw them in. And in an instant, those bodies hit in there, and he looks in and says, what is that? Didn't we throw 3 men in there? I see 4. And the 4th is like a son of the gods. Showed up. Come on. One move. This is your last chance before checkmate. You better bow your knee to the circumstances. You better open your mouth and say, say the negative. You better bow the knee to, this is your last move. Otherwise, into the fire, checkmate. You go into the fire, and Yeshua shows up. The ropes are loose, fire raging around you, and you're not even sweating. When you leave the fire, there's not even a smell of smoke.
That's right. That's what it says.
I can imagine Yeshua. How do you like this, boys? Is this worth serving me? Is this worth being willing to die?
You don't bow, you don't burn.
If you don't bow, you won't burn. If you don't bow to the circumstances, you won't burn.
That's right.
It's a lie of the devil. It's a lie. He is a liar from the beginning. Come on. The rule of the game is I'm going to put you into a place. One of the places, all the ways, by the way, you keep them in places with the Word of God. Whatever He says, my word is you're a liar and the father of lies. I'm not denying that things aren't real in this world, but I got a greater truth. I'm not playing chess in this dimension. I'm playing in another dimension. There's always another move. And so my question today is, in closing, what battles are you fighting that are the wrong battles? What battles are you fighting that are the wrong battles? You're trying to change someone, you've been trying to change them for 30 years. When are you going to realize they have a free will to do what they want to do with their life? Meanwhile, your life is being captured by what they're doing. When do you come to a point where you say, no, I move forward, but I'm not going to end my life and just camp out on the fact. I know people who haven't served God because their elderly mother or elderly father needed them. No, God needed them in the kingdom. I've heard people who've changed their whole life because mom or dad won't live for another year and they lived another 10 years. You're fighting the wrong battles. Battles that you cannot win, because they involve other people's free will and decision. It's not witchcraft. Battles that you're not equipped to fight. There's someone else's battle. I can't fight your battle for you. I can't fight the battle of your finances for you. I can agree with you what the Word says, but I am not going to walk out there and give you 5 minutes of time worried about your finances. That's your battle, not mine. If I start doing that, I'm carrying everybody else's battle. Many people are running around carrying other people's battles. They're worried about this one, worried about this. By the way, all the time saying they're in faith. Come on. I had an associate pastor years ago that said one week we'd meet on Fridays for a staff meeting. I said, well, how'd things go this week? He said, I feel like I've been putting out fires all week. I planned to do something on Monday. It didn't happen because this happened. And then I didn't get to it Tuesday because this happened. And then I didn't get to it Wednesday because this happened. And he says, I felt like I've been running from one fire to the other, and said, suddenly on Thursday I stopped and said, who's lighting the fires?
That's right.
And he said, the devil's lighting the fires. He said, so I just realized I made every decision this week to do what the devil wanted me to do. I'm being led by the devil. Come on, he's lighting the fires and I'm running to that fire. He lights his fire. Who led your life this week? The devil. Maybe you need to walk away from some of those fires. That's not mine to deal with, devil. I give it to Yahweh. I commit it in prayer and then I let go of it and move on. we're fighting wrong battles. The enemy is trying to keep us away from getting him in check. Amen? One sign that you're in a wrong battle is this. You get tired, you get discouraged, and you get worn out. I remember when Pastor Jonathan one time said he was fighting the wrong battle about church finances. He realized he had a board that was supposed to deal with that. Why was it his to deal with? And when he could be getting into the Word and preparing about the Word and being focused on the vision of where the church is going, every week he's concerned about the budget and how much money came in and all that. And he realized, if he's the only person there, that's his job, but he's not. He had a large church and he had a staff to handle that. That's their job to fight that battle, not mine. And he said, so I took it off my plate. He says, I don't even ask the question now, how are we doing? That's not my battle. That's his battle, not mine. Come on. The enemy gets you tired, discouraged, and worn out when you're fighting wrong battles. That's the first indication. What am I carrying? What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? Glory to God. I know, I totally believe in healing. But I don't have a problem with people who go to a doctor. Come on. If you say, I think I need to go to the doctor, but I'm going to stand. You're fighting the battle. If you're fighting the battle of faith and healing, you're on victory's side. It's still a battle, but you're winning it and you're confessing it. But if you're worried and worn down and discouraged by the battle, go check it out. I've had people check out things that the devil was convinced them that it was this. They went out and found out it was only this. Come on. I remember years ago when I was in college that I had something going wrong with. I didn't know what it was. Long story short, I went to my doctor. He was a Jewish man, very interesting. And he does some tests and everything. And next day I come back to visit him, and he says, so everything's going to be fine. He says, I've got a prescription for you. And he gives me a prescription for something. And I look at it and it says, oh, what is this? He says, well, it's a mild tranquilizer. And I looked at it and I said, so what you're saying to me is that all these things that I'm feeling and all that's going on is a result of stress. He said, yep, that's what I'm saying. I gave him the prescription back. I said, thanks. I needed the information. I don't need the prescription. Amen. See, the most stressful thing was I didn't know what was going on. That was the biggest stress. Because I was a sitting target for the devil to say, well, maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. He runs by, would you accept cancer? No? Okay. Well, how about rheumatoid arthritis? Look, I'm only 22. Okay. Well, he does, and he runs through a checklist with you. Well, maybe it is. And I just needed a report. It's stress. I can deal with that stress. And I did. You understand what I'm saying here? Don't fight the wrong battles. Don't try to win something that someone else controls. Glory to God. I had a board member one time. I was only in the church about 6 months. Some conflict arose. He said, I think we have the authority to fire you. I looked the man right in the eye. With all due respect, sir, if you do, go ahead and fire me right now, because let's get it settled. In this church, the congregation hires me, not this board. So we can bring it before the congregation, but you have no authority whatsoever to take a vote as a board and say you're fired. Fire away. I'm not going to live under the threat someone might fire me. You understand what I'm saying? You got to know who you are. Don't fight wrong battles. You have one battle. One battle is I'm going to use the Word of God, and I am going to speak that Word and say that Word and believe that Word till this enemy king cannot move. He's paralyzed by the Word of God that comes out. So there's 2 battle rules. And with that, you know how to play chess. Submit to God and resist the devil. Submit to God and resist the devil. That's the 2 rules for winning the spiritual chess game. Submit to God. In other words, do what God tells you to do. And resist the devil. You resist him with the Word. Let's not try to get the king locked in when we're playing the rules of checkers. How many moves is it going to take you now that you know this to go put the devil in check in your life? 2? 3? One. One. It is written. Whatever he tells you, you speak back out loud with your words. Devil, it is written. I will live and not die. Devil, it is written that I am a tither and an offering giver, therefore my prosperity is guaranteed in heaven. It is written, devil, that my God meets all my needs according to his riches and glory. It is written. One move. Every time a thought comes, you take that thought captive with just one move on the chessboard. It is written, which means you better know what the Bible says. That's your only weapon that is an offensive weapon, is the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. You have within the power of your word every second of the day to respond to every situation. It is written. When Andrew Womack tells the story about how his son was killed, or died, he wasn't killed, died and was in the hospital, was dead. They were hours away. But the minute he heard the news, he said, no, it is written, my son will live and not die. Andrew's son, I think it was 5 hours, 6 hours, was in the morgue, tag on his toe, came back to life. Came back to life. Why? Because the first words are, it is written. Come on, it is written. It is written. You either learn to fight that way, or you get overwhelmed and you watch as the enemy moves all over and finally puts you in the place where you're the one that's in bondage. No, your days are over, devil. Amen?
That's right.
Your days are over governing our life, managing our life, dictating our life. We're going to use the Word of God at every time and check, oh, will you show up again? Will you make another move? Oh, yeah, this is life. I defeated you today, doesn't mean tomorrow you're going to be quiet. But every time you speak, every time you act, I am going to say, it is written, till you find yourself in a corner with no place to go. And you are surrounded with a man or woman of God who knows how to speak the word and get results. Let's play the rules of chess. Amen? Did you get anything out of this? Father, we thank you and praise you for teaching us some things today about the goal of our battle in life against the enemy. That we are meant to be more than conquerors. We are meant to be victorious over him. You've decreed it and declared it. In fact, Yeshua, you've already won the battle for us. The enemy is defeated, but because he's an outlaw, we need to be the ones to enforce his defeat. And so, Holy Spirit, be free to move in our lives. Each and every moment of this week, call to our mind the message today so that when the enemy makes a move, we instantly know what's going on and we know how to answer and make our move. We will simply say, it is decreed, it is declared, it is written, thus saith the Lord. And what you say will be what we hold on to. What you say will be what we believe. We're not moved, Abba, by what we see going on in the world. We are moved by what we see in your word. And to that we will be truly faithful. And God's people said, amen. Well, let's get ready with our offering to